Good afternoon, everyone, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody out there. We're, let's see, December 19th, 2024. Boy, yeah, that went by fast, didn't it? Anyhow, wasn't sure if I'd get a video up before Christmas this year, but I didn't really have any knives that were in the process. Well, I do have them in the process of being done, but nothing to the point where I wanted to, show them like I normally do. But all of a sudden, something came up here last week where a friend of mine, Don stopped by here and picked up a knife that he had purchased from me, and dropped off his son's knife that I had made back in 2021 for him. I had forgotten about it, and asked me if I could put an edge back on it for him again. Now, these gentlemen are not, these are not wall hanger safe queen knives. These men use their knives for what they're intended to be, and that's fine. There's a couple of guys out there like to put them in the saves, and I know, Kent, you got your Hudson Bay on the wall. That's fine, but my knives can be used, and that's what I intend them for. They are able to be used in the field and do whatever it is they're intended for. Now, a lot of guys out there are not too fond of sharpening. So, like I said, he asked if I would put an edge back on. So I am doing a sharpening video on how I sharpen my knives. Now, I know there's a lot of guys out there doing different things. A lot of them won't touch a knife to try to, and I've seen some pretty brutal edges out there that I'm just amazed at. And I've had guys tell me they just cannot sharpen a knife. And to me, I just, okay, but I make knives, so I certainly put an edge on them. So I just kind of take it for granted. So for those of you out there who cannot sharpen their knives, I am going to show you how I do it anyway. There's lots of ways of doing it, but this is my way. Now, hang on a second. I got my coffee here. I don't want to drop anything in there. Anyhow, there it is. Okay, small hunter. And you can even see he's still got a little bit of deer hair on there. I forget how many deer he said he had field dressed in the woods with this knife. And apparently he loves it, but it's still sharp. Yeah, still sharp, but it needs a little bit of a touch up, no doubt about it. And we'll put a little bit of finish on that handle and get her all looking almost anew again. So, all right, and the sheath looks a little. Well, we might touch that up a little bit too. So, all right, give me a minute. We'll get in the forge there and on my machine, and I'll show you guys how we do that. Okay, back in the forge. Now, what I have here is my 2x72 belt grinder. And the belt that I have on there is a maroon surface conditioning belt. I've showed and I've talked about these belts before in a previous video, how I polish the blades and things like that. But I also use these to put the final edge, finalize one of the steps in putting the edge on my knives. All right. Now, what I'm assuming now is that everybody's knife that they're just about ready to sharp already has a bevel on it. Okay, that is an edge right there. Now, unless you're making a knife and starting from the beginning and grinding the bevel in, you don't need to have a very heavy grit belt. 120, I'd say at the moment, if you really needed it, if you needed to take out chips or any kind of large imperfection in the edge itself. This one doesn't have that. Okay, now all my knives, all my field knives, hunting knives, depending on how thick the blade is, I grind to approximately 23 degrees, somewhere in that range. Okay, chef knives may be a little bit sharper angle. Now, the sharper the angle, the more fragile the actual edge is going to be. Okay, again, so this is how I determine which type of angle I put on, what type of knife it is. Heavy duty chopping knives, a little bit more sharper, or a little bit more, not as sharp certainly as a chef knife. The other thing about the bevel on my knives is that the profile, it's called an apple seed profile, all right? So I actually grind them, all right, hold on. I grind them flat first, okay? Pointed, 20, 22, 23 degrees, somewhere in that area. But after I get done polishing them, they become that shape, like that. All right, it's sort of an apple seed shape. That's the terminology I use. An apple seed, the bottom of an apple seed. What that does is it makes a sharp cutting edge, but it also keeps the back of the bevel very strong. Okay, holds up much better. It's a convexed edge. That's what it's called. Not compound, convexed. Okay, it bows out a little bit. Now it's very important to do it right. Some guys have a hard time doing it. Some guys have a hard time sharpening it afterward, after that type of a profile is put on an edge. But it's really not that hard. Okay, so what I do is start, like I say, 150 grit maroon Scotch-Brite belt. Okay, hang on, we're gonna get it going here. Okay. Not taking a lot off, just enough to get back to normal again. Now, as you can see, I was causing sparks coming off that blade. So I was taking a very minute amount of steel coming off of there, all right? Not a huge amount. Now, the secret to getting a perfect edge. When you do that, one side then the other, it's a little hard to describe, but you've got to have a burr on the end of that bevel. Okay, I don't know if I can even show it on there now. What happens is you're grinding or polishing, okay, one side, and then you do the other side, and it actually pushes that metal opposing the side that you're grinding from, okay? So you gotta you can see it sometimes if, hang on a second. There, okay. All right. It's hard to describe to people who, you know, are not used to grinding like that. That is the absolute secret. You have to have a consistent burr on the end of that bevel. And you can't always see it, but you can feel it. Okay, now it's not quite there yet. A lot of times what happens is you get a little bit on one side, you know, up towards the point, and maybe not there down over here. You gotta have your thumb on there and feel that for that burr. Okay, that is the only way you're gonna know that you've got that entire edge completely ground, polished, whatever you want to call it, and ready for the next step. So, all right, gonna hit it again. Hang on. Get my ears back on. All right. Now, I have a consistent burr on that side. Okay. Now, I do all my grinding freehand. That's just the way it is. A lot of guys can't quite get that down without a jig. Well, that's fine. Whatever works for you guys. A lot of times, like in the beginning when I was first doing this, you get a little bit nervous on that belt grinder. When you're on there doing it freehand and nothing's holding it but your hands. And you do have to be careful. I mean, you know, this is nothing to mess around with. That will, if it catches at the right point on your knife, it can fling it down. And I have done that before, and it's actually stuck right into there was a table on the other grinder that I had. Not a good idea. Not a good thing to have happen to your foot or any other part of you for that matter. You know. So, got to be very careful doing it. Once you get used to it and you do it, you know, it becomes second nature. Now, maroon 150 grit. We're going to the next one. Blue 220. There it is right there. This is the finest grit they make in a surface conditioning belt. Okay, give me a minute here. Ears back on. Same, hold on a second. Okay, same thing. Same exact setup. All right. Super polished, but not quite done yet. Okay. Burr's not on that side, burr's on this side, all the way through. Okay, it's getting close now. All right, give me a minute. Okay, this here is a buffing wheel. All right, it's got there's a motor attached to that. Yeah, a little bit there. This is my grandfather's, believe it or not. I would say way over 90 years old this particular setup is, and it's still going. Old wash machine motor, and it just keeps on turning. Now this is a cotton buffing wheel, okay? What I use is the black polishing compound. Now, this is the most aggressive compound that they have. I get it at Harbor Freight. It comes in little tubes. This is going to last forever, practically. Very aggressive cut, so you got to be careful, but you want to be able to take that burr off of that bevel. Okay, so I like to get it off, get it down, get it off of there quick, so we're on to the next step. I usually hit it a little bit when it's turning, and I'll show everybody how that's working now. Okay. Now, a little bit different angle on this one. Okay. You're actually dropping the blade back just a little bit. Not the same angle as you were polishing before. You want to get that bevel off. Not a huge amount of pressure. Now you can see a lot of times that buffing compound will pile up on the edge. You don't want that, so you're at the wrong angle if that's happening. But so far that's looking pretty good. Just a little bit more. All right. Now you can feel for the burr. The burr is gone now. Okay, that's incredibly important. If you leave that burr on that blade, I don't care what it is, I don't care what knife it is, if you leave that burr on that blade, it will not cut. In fact, it'll just roll over even worse and get jagged, and it's just a mess. So, no burr, nothing. Now we're still not done yet, so hang on. Okay, we're back. Now, just to recap here, I showed how to reestablish the bevel on the knife. Okay, now if you don't have a bevel on the knife, I grind it to approximately 22 to 24 degrees, depending on what the knife is being used for and the thickness of the blade. Okay, this one is about 23 degrees approximately. Okay, so then we went from the bevel's there, established, to a 150 maroon surface conditioning belt. Polish it. Make sure you got that burr, okay, the whole length. You got to feel that with your thumb, because you might see it maybe, but it's unlikely. And then to a blue surface conditioning belt, which is about 220. And then I went to the buffing wheel. I used a black polishing compound. I don't know what the RPM is on that. It's not very fast. Usually better to have it going, medium, nothing too fast. Again, you got to be careful with hanging on to these things. You don't want that thing to catch it and fling it all over the place or into your foot. Like I say, not a good thing. So, okay, now the last step is what I call, it's like a barber shop belt, okay? In the old barbers, when they had that big old belt in there, it's a strop, a strope, whatever you want to call it. It's leather, okay? Leather. Oh, hang on a second. I put a different kind of compound on there. Hang on. All right. Should have had that already, but what the hell. Green. Same place. Harbor Freight. They come in the tubes. Probably last forever. I cut off little pieces here and there, and I have them all over the place where I'm sharpening. I have a couple of these too. Now, leather glued to a piece of wood. Nothing fancy. I make them up every once in a while. I should probably make some up for sale because I don't know how many times I get guys asking me for them. Just rub it into the surface. Not a huge amount. Some guys like to put oil on there too, and it kind of holds the polishing compound in place. I don't know. Might work. I've put oil on there a couple times. I don't really notice any difference. Now, all right, here we go. Backwards now, okay? Very important. You do not use this like a sharpening stone, you know, like that. And that's another thing too. A lot of guys use sharpening stones. That's fine. I just like to use the belts. Okay, I think I get a more consistent edge on it. Works fast. I mean, it's ready to go. So, like I said, backwards. Like this. Yeah, get in the frame. Backwards. Take your time. Get that whole edge. Do the other side. 1, 2. Try to keep it consistently on both sides. All right. Just lift it up a little bit so you got that bevel in contact. And now you wouldn't think that that's going to make a big difference, but it does. It's taking, there's no burr left, but it is taking that edge to a razor sharp edge. Hang on a second. That's sharp. Okay. Every knife that I put out of here, I do a paper test, and then I do a leather test. Okay, I'm not going to do that right here because it's a mess. If it cuts leather and it cuts paper like that, it's ready to go. And again, that is now razor sharp. And I always put in a disclaimer in my knives when I send them out. These are incredibly sharp. I've had guys tell me that they've never even had a knife that sharp before. Not a complaint, but scary sharp I hear all the time. This is how I put an edge on my knives. So, I hope I've helped a little bit here, clearing up any issues on people out there not too familiar with sharpening. And any questions, please let me know. I'd be glad to help. Probably won't have another video here until after New Year's. Yeah, probably because I'm going to take a little break. Jeez. All the knives that I had to put out went out on Monday. And hopefully they get there in time. UPS, USPS, they're having some trouble this year. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody. Thank you again for a great year. And we'll catch everybody in the next one. Thanks again.